Baldur's Gate 3 is host to a bunch of powerful elemental spells, and no, we won't be casting any fireballs. Today we'll be frosting and freezing our enemies to death, doing upwards of 100 damage a spell, to find out if it's possible to beat Baldur's Gate 3 with ice only. I'll be playing with the honor mode rule set, though won't be playing in single save mode for my own sanity. I will, however, only be doing cold damage with my spells. For flavor reasons, we'll want to be a Dragonborn Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer. The Dark Urge so happens to be one, though I'll just play as his Tav little brother. We grab the only spells that matter, and our cold-focused Draconic ancestry. Our name, Glacius, which will become apparent soon if not already. Once again, we find ourselves on the Nautiloid, and to escape we team up with our first ally, Lae'zel, who rolls a natural 1 and falls off. Well, we didn't need her anyways. Ice Knife is plenty strong on its own, doing 1d10 piercing and 2d6 cold in a radius. The only thing I'll gain from trying to fight Zalk is a headache, so let's land and get the run truly started. The road ahead is full of perils, brain freeze, deadly snowmen, and falling icicles to name a few. But overcoming these obstacles, we reach level 2, unlocking our metamagical potential. Twin spells are metamagic of choice, doubling our potential damage sometimes, since we can only twin certain spells. Ice Knife is out, though we can twin Chromatic Orb or our cantrip Raise of Frost. I like Raise of Frost since we save a spell slot and the slow often helps. This will be gaining damage as we level, so it'll stay relevant. I'm still mad at Withers from last run, so not only won't I enter his stupid tomb, I won't be talking to him all run. The Emerald Grove is next, which is never too hard. We attack the isolated ones, freezing them in their tracks and leading them to a cold icy grave. Our icy magic leaves them on thin ice, quite literally freezing the blood in their veins. Well, I guess the blood outside their veins. They'll win this fight when the hells freeze over. Now that the puns are out of my system, let's start assembling the build. Aaron here sells a staff that we calmly trade for. The Rain Dancer lets us create water, leaving water for us to freeze, but more importantly, making enemies wet. Being wet gives vulnerability to cold damage, which is all we care about. We'll be getting many powerful staves, but you'll notice me struggling not to use this one. We need to get some semblance of a build, so let's head to the mountain pass quickly. We get level 3 just by entering and get our next metamagical choice, Quicken Spell, letting us cast as a bonus action. Considering the sheer lack of action economy we have, this is almost a necessity. We also get a visit from our dream visitor, a nice beautiful half-orc. She doesn't have any loot for us, so I don't care what she has to say. Back to the mountain pass. Lady Esther has 3 pieces of equipment that we want, but we're kinda broke. We do have enough to buy her potions, so she can't use them during our negotiations. Now then, our 3 items we get are the Graceful Cloth, Periaptive Wound Closure, and most importantly, the Winter's Clutches. Whenever we inflict cold damage, we also inflict them with Encrusted with Frost, giving disadvantage on their dex saves, which is very useful when it comes to ice. Rush these gloves. We'll be wearing them all run. Now then, it's time to say hi to my favorite gobbo, Crusher. Luckily, my favorite feature is still in the game. We drink an elixir of strength so we can pick him up and use him as an improvised weapon. By traveling to a waypoint while we're carrying him, he comes with us. We kill Crusher in cold blood and get his cool ring, giving us extra movement speed. Okay, no more puns, I promise. I won't go over every level up, but level 4 is a big one. It nets us a feat and Elemental Adept, giving us more consistent damage and allowing us to bypass cold resistances. Very good for later. Now we head to the Underdark. Here our quest lies in waiting, to assemble all 3 pieces of a legendary staff. An Ice Staff, and our first opponent that stands in our way is a Spectator. I recommend casting Darkness beforehand, unless you want to lose your run. Luckily with it up, the Spectator doesn't suspect a thing. This is where we'll be stationed all fight. On its turn, it'll unpetrify one of these stone statues to fight us, but hitting them one time will remove its charm, instead having them help in the fight. We'll want to stay on top of this to keep up with the 3 actions of the Spectator. After many ice spells, thanks to our new gloves, we're actually able to freeze the Spectator for a couple rounds and take him out easily from there. Our reward is not on the Spectator as you would expect, instead on this corpse. What we care about is the Ice Helve, the first of 3 pieces to our staff. The other 2, if you can believe it, are guarded by even stronger enemies, and we have no time to waste. The first of 2, we need to gain entrance to the treasure room in the Myconid colony by killing the Dwergar. The second group of enemies we need to deal with are the Hook Horrors, which are by far my least favorite enemy. They've got high health pools at 97, high mobility, like really high. You'd think this would be a long enough distance away. And high damage. We're going to be dealing with these guys one at a time, otherwise we'll be in for a bad day. We do manage to get one of them wet, and with a crit we're already doing 28 damage with a cantrip, which trust me is nothing so far. Now then, as before, what we're looking for isn't on the big beast attacking us, but this little guy over here. He has the Icy Crystal, part 2 of 3. Now for the Dwergar. Right above where we killed the hook horrors is a nice outcropping that we can shoot the Dwergar from. Most can't even see us from up here, but Gek, the one that we care about, can blink up. Despite our best efforts, we can't knock him back down with what we have, but Gek can't stand up to our icy barrage. With the Dwergar dead, we can return to the Myconid camp and gain access to the last item we need, some icy metal. Interacting with the pieces lets us combine them, forming them into the almighty Morning Frost. This staff is as good as we're gonna get for the early game, giving us additional cold damage and potentially inflicting chilled. Chilled gives enemies vulnerability to cold damage, much like wet, but if combined with wet, it instantly freezes them. All in all, a great staff. It's with these new tools that we farm up, killing everything we skipped over to get to level 5. Now with level 3 spell slots, we're powerful enough to take on Auntie Ethel. We enter her secret lair and gently persuade her door to open up for us. I greatly recommend killing all but one of these masks, as you'll see in a second. Most of them are fine to leave alive, but just make sure the Mask of Servitude is dead. We start off combat by making Auntie wet. Ugh. And she summons her masked darlings to come help her. Of course 3 of them are dead, so she just summons 1. Now then, watch this. Isn't it beautiful? 92 cold damage with a level 3 chromatic orb. That's the power of times 4 damage. If we got super lucky, we could have theoretically done 138 damage, but this'll do. Now, despite what you might believe, the fight isn't over yet. Our chances to hit are still low, and honor mode doesn't help with that. Luckily, we barely do enough damage with a well-placed ice knife, and after cowering in Auntie's room for a turn, she surrenders.
Wait! Wait just a tick!
We ask nicely for her power and the girl, and naturally we'll be putting our boon into charisma, rounding it off at a nice 18. One well-deserved long rest and ignored withers later, let's return to the mountain pass and to the Githyanki Crush to get some remaining items. Upon sneaking past the guards and speaking with this Gith, we're summoned to the Inquisitor's chambers. And it's here where we'll completely ignore everything and loot the treasure in the back. Particularly, we're looking for this necklace, just giving us some more damage on our cantrips, making Ray of Frost even more potent. Now for Warworgaz. We kill him with our secret technique. If you're familiar with Barrelmancy, this is an advanced form. Instead of smoke powder barrels, we have water barrels. Unfortunately, we don't have an AoE spell yet, and Warworgaz on honor mode constantly creates these swords every turn. Our fire build would have had Fireball by now, and our ice equivalent Ice Storm is a level 4 slot. We can use something though, but we'll need to farm up beforehand. So for level 6, we won't actually take 6th level Sorcerer, but instead we'll divert for 1 Wizard. This gives us some extra spell slot generation, but more importantly, gives us access to learning spells. Meaning we can cast a spell I bet you haven't cast often, Whiff of Warding. This, like Chromatic Orb, can be cast in various elemental forms, including Cold. This form does 5d8 cold damage, which is actually really good, nearly as much as Fireball, which is supposed to be overpowered. The best part about it though, is we can cast it ahead of time, which we'll make more use of in Act 2. What we can do for now though is round up a group, make them wet, and cast a glyph right on them. Now there's damage. The enemies on their turn watch in awe. This is all we want out of the first act. Now let's move to the shadow-cursed lands of Act 2. Here presents us with a unique challenge. Without a light source, we're inflicted with a shadow curse, so don't forget to grab a torch like I did. We carefully maneuver our way through the shadows, finding a wandering traveler, and in the distance a large sphere of light. This is the last light in, and inside are several pieces of equipment we want our icy mitts on. Entering this place, we're suspected of being an absolute spy, though fellow absolute spy Marcus bails us out. We'll have to thank him later. Now that we're in, let's get provisioning. Firstly, we get our first cloak, the Cloak of Protection from Quartermaster Tali, and in this bedroom beneath a loose floorboard is the Snowburst Ring. which will have a permanent home on our ring finger. Doing cold damage now leaves a ring of frost on the ground, causing rough terrain for our foes, making them either jump out or slip trying. This is a good time to mention that I let Nier die by long resting too many times in order to get his boots, the disintegrating Nightwalkers. For how our battlegrounds are going to look now, these are basically a necessity. Now then, Marcus wants to kill Isabel, and despite being the Dark Urge's brother, I'd rather not let that happen, so we'll be trying to save her. We'll be casting an inconspicuous magic circle on the ground for later, and blocking off the entryways with furniture so no enemies can enter. We make Marcus wet and trigger the dialogue. We can hear Isabel muffled through the sheer amount of stuff we put in the way, and get this ambush started. The ambush of Marcus, that is. Our magic circle chunked a good portion of his temporary hit points, and our chromatic orbs chunk him for a large portion too. Isabel barely holds her own for one round against Marcus, but fortunately we can deal with him next turn. Now everyone else has been dying in the meantime to these horrors, so we'll have to help out else they kill Isabel. Unfortunately I forgot to block the inside of the room as well, so Isabel tries to help. I decide to use my Scroll of Ice Storm in a futile attempt to save Isabel in time. It's not enough, and Isabel dies promptly after. The protective barrier surrounding this place falls, and everyone falls to the Shadow Curse soon after. Well, not my fault, not my problem. We promptly drink an invisibility potion and move on with our lives. As disastrous as this scenario is, all it really does is prove a minor inconvenience later. We got our blessing from her, so we can venture into the darkness without a torch now. If we want to go even deeper though, we'll want to ambush this caravan. Fortunately for this encounter, we don't need a fight at all. Our words are strong enough to convince him to give up his lantern, plus the added bonus of driving them into the shadows.
If it is Her Majesty's will.
With this lantern, we free the pixie trapped inside, who gives us her blessing as thanks. The Shadow Curse is no longer a threat. Sneaking our way past the Tollkeeper, we make it to Moonrise, home of one Ketheric Thorm, one of the Absolute's 3 chosen we'll need to kill. We'll deal with him after dealing with Aroa. She'll be our best friend later. We'll be stocking up on scrolls and potions here when we can. We want to play along being an absolute cultist for now, and that means working with Sorel, who wants us to go to a forgotten Sharan temple in search of a powerful artifact and blah blah blah, whatever. Give me Balthazar's room key. This little necromancer has a secret little room, and to get in, we rip the heart out of a corpse and jam it in the keyhole. Works every time. Why am I so antsy to get here? Our new hat. A wizard isn't complete without one, and we get the Cold Brim hat, which gives us even more encrusted with frost. This happens anytime we inflict a status, including wet or even encrusted with frost itself. Plus it looks cool. Every spellcaster needs a cool wizard hat. Before we head out to our new quest, I want to be leveled up, so I go looking for trouble. Here's some eye candy for all you numbers enjoyers. This level just gives us some extra damage, letting us add our charisma modifier, and we get an all-important level 4 spell slot. We still don't know Ice Storm though, but the good old create water combo into warding glyphs still does good work. We fight our way through the shadows, landing ourselves in an abandoned hospital, which is concerningly not abandoned. Now's as good a time as any to show our full power. We can make our enemies wet, then cast Glyph of Warding, which only detonates on enemies, and we haven't aggroed these ones yet. So when we start combat with, say, an Ice Storm, the best part about all this isn't even necessarily the damage, but the ice we created. This makes them move horrendously slow, and occasionally slip and waste their whole turn, which is really good for this fight, since Malashir's gimmick is based around his assistants walking over to him and giving him a powerful attack. As the combat goes on, only more and more of the arena is getting frozen, and we're safe thanks to Nier's boots. The ice build really is the best, doing insane burst with setup, and afterwards slowing, freezing, and frosting the enemies in the arena until nobody can move. Malice clearly wasn't all too happy. I also killed a blob called Thizibald, but I failed to record it, though this icy wake behind him should give you a good idea of how it went. Basically, he wasn't able to move. Now there's one more boss I snuck past earlier, Garringoth, the Toll Collector. We hop up on the roof, gather them all up with Minor Illusion, and cast an Ice Storm. Garringoth has a massive health pool, but loses a large chunk every time a skull is defeated. This makes the fight quite simple. Kill all the skulls and kill her dead. Also be careful fighting her when you're carrying money. Anyways, our quest. That's right, the Shar Temple. Looking for some artifact or something. By some stroke of luck, I didn't die on this puzzle for once. It's actually embarrassing how many times this room fills with darkness. This whole place is filled with traps and enemies, and frankly, I have an artifact to steal. So let's do this the easy way. We only need to complete one puzzle in order to get to the end, and we might as well do the same self-trial. This trial summons an exact copy of everyone in your party, though in this case just me. Which is surprising to both of us, and we spend turn 1 just in awe of each other. This guy truly is an imposter though, since he's opted for Fireball instead. All of our gear is frost focused, so this guy's a chump. Completing this trial gives us 1 Umbral Gem, which is all we need to get to the end. We only need 1 since we need to operate this lift. I'd recommend saving before taking this elevator, since it's been known to kill plenty in Honor Mode run. We make it down safely and find a contraption, which needs 3 more Umbral Gems. I feign interest and cast Knock on the door. Puzzle solved. Let's head down and get this loot. And we never killed Balthazar, the necromancer we are sent to help, which means he gets first dibs, unless we want to fight him. This is a path I've never done before though, so let's see what happens. At the bottom, we find Balthazar with a, woman. This is the relic Ketheric Thorm spoke of? Yes, it is. And it's the source of his immortality. Balthazar's task was to bring it to Moonrise Towers, and our task was to aid him. Well, you know where we're headed next. Back at Moonrise, Ketheric Thorm wants an audience with this good little cultist, since apparently we got credit for Isabel's abduction. Works for me, let's get our reward. We pray at the altar and accept the Absolute's embrace. I don't particularly know about this anymore. Okay, definitely don't know about this anymore. Luckily, our prism comes to save us. Now, unfortunately, we get abducted and wake up in Balthazar's egg sac. It's from here we have to break out and fight our way to get to Ketheric. Inside here, we're silenced, but fortunately Ice Knife has the caveat of being castable while silenced. Now that we're free, we run away. Not with the intention of letting him live though, I just want to get the jump on him. For a Necromancer, he sure doesn't like the cold. 2 spells are all we need to delete him. He's just the appetizer though. Things are about to get way worse. Heading down this lift, it's time to deal with the maker and breaker of runs, Ketheric Thorm along with Merkel. I always advocate killing this Mind Flayer first, and yes, I remembered my bottles of water. With a crit, we can one-shot him and move on to rescuing Ketheric Thorm's relic, Aelin the Night Song. The nice part of this route is Aelin actually starts at full HP, which helps us significantly. Let's be honest, anyone that's done this fight knows that this isn't the hard part. We can kill Ketheric easily enough, but here's where it gets tricky. Merkel usually does his turns like this. Gaze of Dead on someone, then Call of the Damned if he can't swing at anyone. If he can, he'll instead tend to use a Reaper's Scythe, but will tend to fight him at range. Here's the real kicker. Honor Mode gives him a bonus Gaze of Dead as a reaction when getting hit. To avoid a good portion of his attack, I recommend either Darkness or Fog Cloud to blind him. Besides all of this, there's one glaring issue. Merkel has cold resistance. That's not so bad, you say. We have Elemental Adept, and we can pierce it. Wrong. Only our spells can pierce him. Any spell scrolls still get their damage reduced. Additionally, this means if we make Merkel wet, he doesn't get damage vulnerability, but instead just loses his resistance. Honestly, I can go 20 minutes in depth about how Merkel screws us at every angle, but let's focus on our triumph. It's simple. Money. I shopped at Roa, stacking up on all the scrolls we can carry. From the Underdark, we also got handy haste spore flasks, and I used both of them this fight. This is no time to be stingy. We can get as powerful as we need after, but Merkel needs to die here. One thing that'll let us turn the tide a bit are water and ice elementals, which both do cold damage. All in all, this fight is grueling. This isn't even counting the fact that he's healing this whole time. I'll spare you my torment. As I write this script and look through the footage, there truly is nothing good for me to talk about except the fact that it's over. All in all, I used 2 haste spore flasks, 3 conjure elemental scrolls, 3 conjure minor elemental scrolls, 4 scrolls of ice storm, 2 scrolls of cone of cold, and many, many potions. I need a cold shower, ice cold. We get level 9, giving us ice storm finally, and another feat. I'm just gonna get the +2 charisma. No need to do anything fancy. The worst is behind us. Let's get to Act 3 and beat this thing. We take a well-deserved nap and prepare for the trek to Baldur's Gate. Ha, you thought. Just as you've dealt with the hardest boss in the game, it throws another curveball. I hope you enjoy evasion, because I don't. A good chunk of my ice spells are dex save based, meaning they'll do no damage. I hate this. I hate this worse than Volo's stupid dumb face. At least we have Ray of Frost. There's hope for us yet. I recommend saving all of your resources until this goal, especially if you didn't long rest beforehand.
It's not over.
If you don't want to get one shot, play some darkness before combat. I can't quite tell through the darkness, but I think it's our dream visitor, and we need to help them. They do seem a bit taller than before. All of these brains have come to assist us, making this a 6v4. Shouldn't be too hard. Okay, a 2v4. Jeez. Remember all these guys have evasion? I didn't. Fortunately, evasion can't save you from slipping on ice. Our best option in this fight is to distract the Githyanki by hiding in darkness and letting the Emperor deal with them all. Sure enough, we can whittle down the honor guard with relative ease despite the skewed battle, and we best the last Gith with the help of our summons. As is tradition, we eat this guy's tadpole, giving us some better looted abilities. Really, all I care about is flight, since it's much more convenient than walking. So, Baldur's Gate, am I right? A place so nice they made it thrice. We've got 3 goals here. Kill Orin, kill Gortash, and kill Raphael. Who's Raphael? I don't know, I haven't seen him all game, but something in my blood wants him dead. Orin and Gortash are the other 2 prison bearers that we need to kill to beat the game. There are some very important mage items we'll be picking up first, all located at the Sorcerer's Sundries in Baldur's Gate, so let's get a move on. As cool and cold themed as our hat is, we can't say no to +2 to Charisma. We'll of course stock up on the scrolls when we can. Now then, it's time for the annual looting of all the Rohan stuff. We never got Volo's eye, so we can't see invisibility, but there are invisible switches here, and we can hit it with spells. Or just use see invisibility. We luckily managed to get the robe and the staff, and we'll be using both of them. The staff gives us a spell called Koreska's Favor, and the only variant we care about is Frost of Dark Winter. This gives us some extra frost on our attacks, plus giving us free castings of Kona Cold and Ice Storm. The robes just give us some nice bonuses that I prefer over +2 to dex. And this is all we'll need to take on the House of Hope. We do want level 10 first though. Level 5 spells will be a big help. You saw it earlier, but Kona Cold is one of the most powerful spells that we can cast, dealing 8d8 cold damage in a cone. You steal this ritual bag from Helsik and head upstairs. The ritual bag contains everything we need to make a portal. The instructions are on the table, but if you're anything like me, I couldn't be bothered to read it.
There's nothing by invading the devil's home, and everything to be lost.
Here in the House of Hope, we'll be grabbing the Orphic Hammer, if only to anger Raphael. The Orphic Hammer will be necessary for the ending I want, and to get it, we'll need to firstly kill Raphael's self-cesting succubi Harlep, who has cold resistance, but isn't really a problem. We nearly wake him, but fortunately he decides to go back to bed, letting us carry on with waking him our own way. With our new high-level spell slots, we're slowly reaching a point of devastating potential. We are constantly using all of our best spell slots though. There just so happens to be a long rest fountain here though, so we can dump all of our spells to our heart's desire. With the Orphic Hammer obtained, we'll need to act fast if we want to get out of here. Fighting our way through his guard, we make our way outside to this cave entrance. All to save the namesake of the house, Hope. 110 cold damage, now there's a new record. It doesn't do cold damage, but I hope you'll appreciate the combo with Shatter. Freezing an enemy gives vulnerability to thunder damage, so it's a decent enough combo. Well anyway, let's shatter these chains and free ourselves an ally. Actually the first of this run if you don't count my summons. She'll be in the invisible corner, so she doesn't actually help this fight. And what fight is that, you ask? Of course it's against the master of the house, Raphael. And I still have the Orphic Hammer on, don't I? Don't worry, I'll realize this embarrassingly late. We really don't want to be standing in here, so we'll be fighting everyone in the hallway. With Hope invisible, all the enemies rush towards our position, and if this view isn't already creating a dopamine rush, maybe this will. We just about live to see the next round, and we get our revenge. Much like our fight with Malice earlier, our arena is slowly being coated in a layer of ice. And after summoning a literal wall of ice, Raphael and his demons can't move an inch. While they struggle with that, I'll summon a water elemental to distract them and take a nice long-deserved nap. With our arsenal of high-level cold spells renewed, Raphael learns the true meaning of a cold day in hell, and that it's today. Finally, with level 11, we can pick up the Conjuration Wizard School to learn Create Water. Though if you're planning on doing this build with friends, I highly recommend Evocation instead. Now to restock and fight Orin. Not before a very important wardrobe update. In order to find her, we'll need to take the credit for a series of murders. And what better way than to murder the murderer? We claim our prize and head to the murder tribunal, a necessary step to fighting Orin. And it's here we're presented with a dilemma. Either we kill an innocent creature or fight Sarabak. Oh, that's right, Dark Urge's brother. Now that we're an assassin of Baal, we can head to the sewers where the entrance to the ancient Baalist temple is. We summon our boys and head right into combat, and immediately get stunned. On our next attempt, our plan is to kill all the surrounding Baalists. They all have Sanctuary, but as an ice sorcerer we have plenty of ways to do AoE damage. Nice and icy. This is good since on honor mode, we're cursed to kill an enemy each turn by Baal. Plus Orin has Unstoppable 12, and the only way we're removing it is by stopping the ritual, which stops all the before mentioned buffs. Hooray. Achieving this took all of my spells, so as we did to Raph, I'll fly away and take a nap. Afterwards, this fight is no trouble at all. The whole platform is made of ice, and soon, Orin dissolves away, becoming one with the ice.
Ashes to ashes, blood to blood.
Now how do we kill Gortash? I originally went in normally, and it's pretty easy to do this way, since there's a defective machine that gives him elemental vulnerability each turn. But there's not going to be another chance I'll be able to showcase this, so let's kill Gortash with snowballs. There's a spell called the Otoluke's Freezing Sphere, which we can cast in a portable variant. This blows up after 10 turns and does alright damage. We happen to stock up on 8 scrolls, so let's cast them. Go invisible and find out what happens when we walk in at Gortash. I'd recommend killing the Steel Watcher first, unlike what I did. It fails to detect me though, and I'm able to stand still for 8 rounds and finish him off with our cock. Cone of Cold, cock, come on. With both of the Chosen down, our last obstacle to beating the game is killing the Elder Brain. We head to the Morphic Pool to end this thing. We find the Elder Brain has evolved into another brain, and we can't control it. This time around, we're actually able to roll well and get our natural 20. This will help us in the final fight, but as you'll see, it's unneeded. We stole the Orphic Hammer, so we'd might as well use it to free Orpheus, son of Laketh. Don't think I'll be becoming a Mind Flayer though. I'll leave that to Orpheus.
The Nether Brain will be only too pleased to claim me.
Even in my darkest hours, I knew it was my destiny to save my people. I could never have imagined this would be the way. Givkar Tavkim crashed.
Cool. So any Hoosers, let's get a move on. Entering the final chapter, Withers is mad we didn't talk to him all game and chastises our lack of allies. We don't need them though, since we've got cheese. If you have the courage to do this fight at the end, I envy you. Personally, I invisibility past them. We're at max level and full build anyways, so there's no point. Personally, what I've done before this combat is going invisible to avoid it, but it seems the devs have fixed it. Damn you, Larian Studios. It's alright though, since we have a back pocket strat I've been saving. By casting Feign Death on yourself and going invisible, after entering the arena with Orpheus, voila. You may be confused since Orpheus is still visible, but let me enlighten you. We disabled all of their AI. No amount of attacking will trigger combat, which does mean Orpheus will be channeling forever, but luckily we're bailed out, since below the surface are some tentacles that can ambush us and trigger combat, letting Orpheus finish channeling and letting us gear up for our final encounter. In honor mode, after the nether brain takes damage, they become immune to that damage source for a whole round. Fortunately for us, we can do 1,000,000 cold damage a round. Oh, 122 is our new highest damage. We use the second round to wait patiently for our opportunity to strike. And come round 3, they never stood a chance. So, remember that I'm the Dark Urge's brother.
An opportunity, perhaps.
My dagger isn't made of ice, but I think this is one cold way to end a campaign.
Together, conquer, rule.